Good morning, friends. Thank you so much for being here. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Unity South Central Region's Business Mastermind. And today we're talking about digital service, what it is to live in a digital world as a church leader. So let's jump right in, shall we? Let me just share my screen. Thank you for your patience while I get this thing up and running. Okay. There we go. All right. Soul Tech. That's what it is, isn't it? Soul Tech. How do we use our technical aspects to do the work that we do in the world? So the threshold that we're standing at is one where digital ministry is no longer an option. There are very few spiritual centers these days that don't offer some form of digital entry. And it's interesting to see how many people have decided that they're going to come to ministry, try out a ministry by jumping online, either watching a recording or coming to a Zoom session, attending a class, getting to know the minister online. I'm often very surprised. I've had people come in and say as much as 6 months they watched online before they decided to come in the building. So it's just a doorway, and it's really not an optional one anymore if you want to grow your church. So what if the screen is not a barrier? What if the screen is a point of energy connection? So when we think about this medium, this cyber medium, this opportunity to do just what I'm doing right now and jump on screen and talk and teach and share, we forget that this is an energetic medium, that it is energy moving from one point to another. And isn't that so much what we as Unity ministers understand? That we live in the divine consciousness, that it is an energy field of which we're made, that that which is holy is foundational to who we are and to everything. So what if this medium is the next evolution in energetic consciousness and energetic development? And let me say this, friends, you don't have to agree with anything that I'm saying here. I'm really just trying to get you to consider other options, to think differently about this medium so that you can use it in a new way, because it's not going away anytime soon. So we believe that God is everywhere, all things, that everything is made of the divine, and that we are the expression, the living movement of the energy of the divine, which means that this medium is part of that this medium does not exist outside the mind, body, consciousness, presence of the divine. We also understand that consciousness precedes form, that our thoughts become things. So this thought has come into being, and this digital world thought. Now, living with it, managing it, discerning what it is here to do for us is important. As is every form of life, we have to discern what we're going to do and how much we're going to use it. But there is something powerful about understanding digital consciousness as connected to divine consciousness. We also understand that our prayers transcend time and space. And interestingly, this medium transcends time and space. I don't really know where all this stuff gets stored, do you? On some invisible cloud out there are all these thoughts and movements of energy and concepts and presentations and opinions. All of that beyond is invisible and intangible, but then we're used to the importance of the invisible and the intangible. And community rises when we have shared awareness, when we really understand that this medium, for example, lives within the context of God, not outside of it. So can we build community in here? Absolutely. Absolutely, we can. And probably some of you who are using it right now already have. You already have people who have moved away, who are thrilled that they can participate from where they are and still connect with their friends and with your teachings. And you probably have people who have come in and are teaching, sharing, offering from your center out into the world to new people. And likely you have people from other places who found you for 3 years. I had a good friend from the other side of the country, from the East Coast, I'm in Colorado, who followed my services and actually flew in because she got to know people in the community. And now she has found a Unity church close to her. But she was with us for like 3 years online. And that just 5 years ago was outside of what we were thinking. Obviously, COVID opened us up to using this Zoom medium and to exploring more richly what is available in the digital world. And more of our people are able to do this now. And that makes a big difference, doesn't it? That more of our people are comfortable doing this work and logging in and finding their way. So it's different than just being in broadcast. We can broadcast. We were doing that. We were live streaming. We were sending out something. But we are not streaming content. Some of us are, but we're not that's not what this class is about. We're not talking about streaming content. We're talking about bringing people into community and creating sacred experience, sacred encounters, an opportunity for people to come together. And that's a really different way of using this medium. For some of us, we're using Zoom or some other platform to send a message out, and forgetting that in the modern world here, if we want this to work, we need to bring people into this experience. So we're here to talk about how that happens. The idea of thinking into your service, if you are doing something ritualistic or sacramental or experiential, how will you involve people who are in the viewing room? What will happen so that they're engaged in your intentional practices for invoking spirit? There are some really important things that can happen that are very simple, like place your hand on your heart. Everyone in the room, and if you're in Zoom, please join us in placing your hand on your heart as we go into prayer. That's really different than watching me pray. It's different for the people in the room, and we know that, but we don't have to think about it so much, because when people are in the room, they have a different feel. They have the sense of being next to someone. They have the opportunity to visit with a friend beforehand. They have the music that was played pre-service. They have lots of things that begin to bring them in. What are the sensory ways that you can bring people into your service in a way that makes them feel like they're part of it, that their senses are involved? They can't hear everything that's going on in the room. They can't smell it. They can't taste it, but they can feel that same connection when you say, let's put our hands on our hearts together. Let's be together in this moment. As you place your hand on your heart, look around you, across the screen or in the room, and recognize that we're all beating a human heart. And as we go into prayer, let's pray from that beating heart place. That's a connecting sentence. It offers meaning, it builds trust, and most importantly, it builds connection across the medium of online and in-house. And building that sense for people who are online that they actually are part of the community is really important. Being able to show people on the screen, have a screen that faces your community in-house so that they can see who's on the screen, and also having a screen view into the community. So you have a square on your Zoom chat your Zoom screen that shows in-house, so people can see each other. People can actually feel the blending of energy, the weaving together of those two places. That makes a really big difference in the experience that people who are online are having, and invites them to come back. And as I said earlier, sometimes it takes 3 months, 6 months, depending upon how often they check in on you. Sometimes it takes a few months for people to feel confident enough that they're ready to step into your community. So I really invite you to think about how you're weaving these two forms of energy together. What can be done? Holding theological integrity. Such an interesting thing to do, to think about theological integrity and what theological integrity means in the place of community. What does it mean to be in theological integrity? Hi, Jackie, glad you're here. Nice to see you. Theological integrity, as we're talking in the digital world, is something different than the form that this box gives you. This particular medium is more than a viewership. It's an interaction. When people are watching from the screen in their living room, they can already feel removed from what you're doing. So when we speak into this form with acknowledgement of the sanctuary that is this room, the sanctuary extension that is this room. I have Jackie just popped into the room, and she refers to it as the balcony. That's in my head right now because I just saw her beautiful face. But that feeling of you're in the balcony, you are an extension of this space, and you are as important. We are as deeply steeped in reverence with you as we would if we actually had people in a balcony right there. Nothing changes because you're in this space beyond the sanctuary. There is a message that goes out, and you know that when you teach, there is an energy that flows from you. Being intentional about that energy crossing into this energy field so that people are at home can feel you, not just see you, but feel you, comes back, as I said, in many ways to tactile connection. That if we say, let's all put our hands on our heart and be here together, let's all breathe, let's take a deep breath and feel our feet on the ground, and let us at the same time know that we're connecting beyond time and space through the ethers to California and Connecticut and wherever else you're connecting to. East Coast, West Coast. Sometimes we have people from other parts of the planet. Sometimes they're down the street, but there's a woven connection that we know, but we often forget to speak to. And intention moves energy. When we intend to involve everybody, to bring everybody in to this sacred sanctuary, to reverently connect everyone, then we speak differently. Our awareness causes us to speak differently. That awareness, that action follows intent, right? Energetic action follows intent, helps to bring people to a feeling that even if they can't get there, that they're connected to what is going on. And that really helps you shift from viewers, people who are receiving a broadcast, to people who feel like they're part of the community and are connected to what's going on and are participating on a level that feels kinesthetic. So how do we design these experiences so that they are sensory and relational even when they're online? Well, we've been talking about several different ways you can do that. Obviously, the easiest sense is the sense of touch. But even to speak about things like in my heart, I am sitting in this room with all of you. We are all connected Notice what you see. Look at this screen and see the faces of the people who are on the screen versus not seeing the faces, observing the minister talking, but being alone in community, alone without community. If we take the time to get people to visually connect with each other, to actually look at each other, look in the eyes, to speak to the fact that this is an energetic medium, and if you allow yourself, you'll feel yourself connected to every single heart that's here, whether they're in the room or whether they're not. In the same way that if we talk to someone we love who's far away, our hearts connect. Our hearts connect because we love them. But if somebody just hands you the phone and you don't know who's on the other end, you're not connected. Your heart is not in it. So if your screen only shows you and there's no opportunity to see who's in the room, or no opportunity for people in the room to see who's on the screen, there's no blending of hearts. You have two entirely different things going on. Even if it's just at the beginning of your service that you have a view into the room so people can see when they're in their living room, and a place in the room where people can see the little screens pop up and the names that are there. If you can incorporate the names of one or two or three people who are in the Zoom room as you speak, makes a difference, because you have brought the presence, the real presence and awareness that there are other people participating, and really help them to feel like they're part of this, because belonging is not about proximity. We think it is, though, and the experience can be that belonging is, if you're in the room or not, it's proximity, and yet it's not. Belonging happens when you feel loved, when you feel acknowledged, when you feel like someone has made an effort to pull you in. That creates belonging. So it's an effort for us to do this in our community, to recognize the people that are there, to call them in, to say good morning if you see somebody pop in, to just remember that the people that are sitting in their living room or at their desk or in their car on their phone have made as much time for your service, for what you are offering, for community, as the other people who are sitting in the room. They just didn't drive there. And I sometimes think to myself, it is a bigger challenge to get someone to turn the screen on at home, because they have 72 different distractions. They can do all kinds of other things. But when they come into this space, they have truly made a statement about their desire to belong to what you're doing. And as a minister, that desire is very strongly anchored to you, because you're going to be their primary focus. They're not coming to have coffee with their best friend or to gather with a group after class. They're coming because they care what you're saying, because they want to be part of what you're saying. They want to hear and be nourished by you. So your acknowledgement of this room, your interaction with this room, may be even more significant, just because it's truly your interaction is part of what really brings them in from other places. So, who becomes possible when walls dissolve? Not what becomes possible, but who becomes possible. When we dissolve the walls between what's happening online and what's happening in the room, we become people on the other side of this screen. Not just reflections of people or images of people or viewers, but we become people. And this conversation of how we incorporate, put your feet on the floor, put your hand on your heart. What I like about put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your throat, sometimes just warming the eyes, to put your hands together and warm your hands. And just as we go into this time of prayer, take a moment And place your hands on your eyes and feel the warmth of your own hands. Feel the comfort and the ease and the grace of your own body-generated warmth. And then gently open your eyes again into this sacred space. Really open into this space and feel the connection that we have. These visceral things are really important. The words that we use, the sound that says, you belong in this space. I see you. I'm grateful for you. You are a gift here. Your energy is palpably joining us, and we are a bigger and better and more enriched community for your presence here. And we know you can walk out to the laundry room and do laundry, and you're not. So thank you. Thank you for bringing your full attention here. Thank you for bringing your voice here. We invite you to sing along, even if you're singing in your own living room. We invite you to nod your head if it feels right to you, and to laugh with us. We love seeing your faces light up as we share different ideas, and we always invite you to come down in person. We'd love to see you and hug you. And we're also so grateful that you're here. All of that conversation changes the experience and makes people begin to feel like they're already part of something. And if people are observing for 3 to 6 months before they make the decision to come to your congregation, you want them to walk in the door feeling like they belong. So, is there a place for conversation afterwards? Can they stay in an online fellowship for 15, 20 minutes? So that there's an opportunity. Is there someone who will facilitate introductions? Hey, if you'd like to stay, we'd love to meet you if you're new. And if you're a community member and you just want to say hello, we're going to have a little conversation. Just grab your coffee and come back, and we'll imagine that we're sitting at our own table and we'll converse. You just need somebody to start a conversation, someone who will facilitate a question into the room. Or is there anybody here who's new who'd like to introduce themselves? And hey, what did you think about what we talked about today? Anybody have a story or something related to that? When we do those things, when we have someone who facilitates that room, people begin to stay to get what they get when they're in the sanctuary. And now they want to meet those people in person. They actually want to come and attend because they already feel like they've been welcomed. They already feel like they belong. These things make a big difference. And it's easy. I'm going to say this word, and I don't think I actually know a single minister who is this, but it's easy to get lazy about this. It's easy to get to have so many distractions that we don't really think about how we pull the digital room in, nor do we think about how important it is to building the younger end. We may have people in our digital room who, because of age and interest, will never walk into a church again because it doesn't feel part of their culture. But if they feel inspired by you, if their soul is touched, which it will be because you're amazing, if they feel inspired by you, they will come into that room, and they are no less receiving from you the gift of inner question, the gift of inner evolution, the opportunity to apply new ways of living, and no less the support that you give your community in the room. In fact, it could be more important to those people because some of those people don't feel like they can ever walk into a church, and especially a church that has wider ideas than what they were raised with, wider ideas than their peers have, any of that. So this space is really important, and who becomes possible also is related to who you invite in, because this room is an invitation. So there's a difference between saying, what's happening in our Zoom room this week versus here's the Zoom link in your newsletter. Oh, in case you wanted to know, side note, there's a Zoom link, you can jump into Zoom. That's really different than saying, if you are homebound, if you have the flu, if you have friends coming an hour after service, if you, whatever it is, you are still so welcome and so wanted in this space. Please join us. Please always feel free to join us in the Zoom room. We see you, we love the energetic connection that happens, and our family is more whole when you're with us. Our community is more whole because we're together. What kind of effort? When we were in COVID, we had to make effort. We had to teach people. If you want to be in the Zoom room, this is still important for our older people. If you want to join us and you can't leave your home, but you don't know how to get on Zoom, let us know. We will get you some help. We had to do that. In 2020, we had to teach people what Zoom was, how to load it on their computer, and what they needed to do. Whether it's Zoom or you're live streaming or whatever platform you're using, do you offer the service to people who can't get there? Do you have a way that people can learn how to get online, how to use their phone, any of that? Do you have anybody technical in your community who might be willing to be a volunteer to help people who are having trouble get online? Most of that we generally leave to other people. We just consider that it just is what it is. Either you're going to get online or you're not. But there are people in nursing homes, people who are convalescing, people who don't have transportation. There are people right now in our communities who are afraid to leave home because they don't think the church is a safe place to be because of some of the news stories they're seeing. How are we conversing about all of this? It really, really matters for so many different people and so many different reasons. So talking into Zoom rooms is one thing. Talking into AI is another. And I'm not here to teach you how to use AI, but I can tell you that it's a consideration, and people have varying degrees of use and approval and varying degrees of dislike for lots of reasons. It is a tool. It is a useful tool. It is not meant to replace you as a teacher or a minister. It can supplement the work that you do in really powerful ways. When you have to write a really hard letter, I just helped someone write a letter to let go of a music director who had been there for 20 years. When you have to write a really hard letter, you can write it yourself, run it through chat, and ask how the letter can be improved. It should not be, you should not go there and say, write me a letter, because the energy will be felt. There is a difference in energy when you put your thoughts on paper and then you just ask for something to be fine-tuned. We'd like this to be kind. I'd like it to be kind. I'd like it to be compassionate. I'd like to make sure I haven't put anything in here that might cause harm. Those kinds of things are really valuable. Those kinds of questions are really valuable. It is a learning to use AI in a way that feels whole and feels in integrity with who you are as a minister, rather than replacing you as the minister. If you feel or are worried about being replaced by AI, chances are you believe that AI is going to do your job for you. And I want to assure you, AI is never going to do your job for you. Even if you have a beautiful avatar who's 5'7" and 36 pounds, whatever that is for you, AI is not going to think for you. It's going to take what you tell it and expand that, or give you more possibilities. But it's not going to replace who you are, because you have your whole life experience that makes you you, and AI doesn't have your experience. It has information. So I invite you to explore it a little bit. I like AI when I'm looking for particular scripture and I want to find out if there's anything else. I want to use this one, and is there anything else? I like to incorporate interfaith aspects when I'm speaking, because not everyone who's attending our church is following a Christian path. So I like to say, I'm going to use this scripture. Is there another similar teaching from another religious path? And see what it can pull up for me. Be sure you go and check those. Once you have them, pull them up online, make sure that it's correct, because AI is not always correct. But it gives you a start. And you might look at how AI translates something and then go look at it online and say, yeah, that's, if I read the scripture above and I read the scripture below, that's not really what I'm after. AI isn't going to do that for you. But it will make your research easier. It will help you design a document. It will open doorways to better communication and more thoughtful communication. And it will teach you, as you share information with it, as you see things that expand and are better said, better done, it will teach you how to do that yourself. Because you'll read it and go, that's almost what I said, but you know, those 3 little words, they made a really big difference. So if you're afraid, if you think the world is going to get taken over, if you're whatever that is for you, I invite you, first of all, to check your thoughts because we don't want to attract that. We don't want to create that, right? This is a tool that can advance your reach, and it's not going away either. Just like the Zoom room, the digital broadcast, these things are not going away. In fact, they're going to become more and more expansive. So taking a little time to learn what is available in this area and how you can use it really is really important. And it's really easy to get online and take a class now. If you want to know about AI, there are a gazillion classes. There are a gazillion YouTube videos out there. There's so much that you can learn around your schedule. You can learn what is available, and you can expand your reach in a really powerful way. Expand and improve your reach. Our just speaking in the form of teaching, we have an adopted son in Uganda who's in college right now, and we went down to see him last year. And while we were there, we taught him how to run math equations through his AI, so that it could see what he's learning, and then it would test him. It would create similar equations so that he could work them out and check them and see if they were correct before he had to take his test. That kind of stuff is really valuable. You can use this as a learning tool. It can, if there's something you want to know more about, it can really be helpful. So I encourage you to set down your fear and to step into possibility around what's available to you out there. You can do a lot of your marketing through AI. And if you're on a limited budget, that's really important. It's really, really valuable. So how do we hold boundaries around all of this? What does it mean to have boundaries around our online work and around our use of digital tools and all of that? First, our sacred space it's defined by agreements, by who we are, what we believe, our willingness to allow people to come in who maybe don't have the same beliefs that we have. There are differences in an online room than there are in your main room. One of those is people who are sitting in the room, in a Zoom room or in an interactive online platform, have the opportunity to chat. They can be engaged in conversation that can be really distracting while you're in service. So are you going to allow that? Can you disable the chat, or will you say, while we're in service, we'd like to ask all of the people in our online space to please refrain from the chat room, just because it is a little bit of a distraction for other people who are in the room. We'll make some room for conversation afterwards, so that anyone who wants to engage in conversation about what we discussed today can do that in the online fellowship time after the service. But for right now, while we're in service, we ask you to give your whole heart and soul to being connected to us and interactive in the way that breathes you into this room. Just breathe yourself into this space with us as we feel your presence here. And that discourages all of that stuff that goes on online. And usually whoever is facilitating your room can then more comfortably say, we have an agreement as a community not to chat until after service. We're so looking forward to doing that afterward. When you say it, you have the authority. It doesn't become the presumptive authority of the administrator of the room. It becomes something that you have asked for. And then it becomes a point of respect. And it makes it much easier for your room administrator to do what they need to do. That's an agreement, right? How we will use this space. But it does require giving a conversation point at the end. We're going to have some online fellowship. Grab your coffee, come in, let's talk. What was today's lesson about? How does it apply to your life? We love to hear what you have to say, just not right in the middle of service, no more than you want somebody to stand up in the middle of your lesson for the week and give their own reflection. It is important to have some boundaries, not walls, because you're trying to unite these two forums, but some boundaries. What is expected? So another thing that can happen is that people can get really gregarious, but they're like, oh, I see you, hello, or whatever it is, or they leave the screen open and they get up and they walk away and they come back and they get their coffee and there's this thing happening all over the screen, right? They're driving, you're seeing the top of the car move, all of that stuff. If you have a platform assistant who opens your service in the same way that we say, we'd really appreciate it if you'd put your phone on vibrate. We can really easily say, if you're in our room and participating in the digital part of our service, we want to invite you to turn your screen off if you need to walk away, because we have the screen open so that everyone can see it and it can see you, and it's a little distracting. So if you would please do that. These can be put into your platform, kind of your platform outline, right? These are the things that we ask. They're really important for the comfort and continuity of what you're doing. So is showing people's faces. Actually saying to people, would you please, just for a moment, open your screen. We don't care if you're in your pajamas, in your curlers. Just open your screen for a minute so we can see your face. Because people come in and they immediately turn the screen off. And then it's hard for the people in the room to really know there's someone behind that black. There's a real heart, a real person. So if you will, for opening prayer, just for our opening, if you will, please open your screen and bring your presence into this room. It's not as easy as snapping your fingers and saying you're here. This is work that we do together. And we do it by being present to one another. So we would love to see your faces, love for you to take a minute to look into the screen. If you have someone managing who can, just for a few minutes, pin the view into your room so that it comes up big enough that people go, oh, that's where I am. It's wonderful. People outside can see in, people inside can see out. You become one community. So having someone who is kind of on this job and understands that they are the bridge between these two communities. If you are facilitating this room, you are the bridge between these communities. If you don't want to say those things in the main room, like you don't want to say, if be sure and close your screen before you walk away, it's a perfect announcement that can be put into the chat as people come in. Right before service starts, 2 minutes before, pop it in. Here are our online agreements. Please honor these. Please open your screen if you're willing to be seen because your face brings presence. Please turn your screen off if you need to stand up and walk away so as not to distract the room. And please know that you are a living, breathing, active, welcomed member of our community. And that we're so grateful you're here. That kind of pre-written goes in the box, it goes into the chat at the beginning of every service, lets people know that you care about what happens in that room. That is not just, it's not the movie theater, right? You didn't buy seat E5. You came to the community. You are invited to give into the community as much as you are invited to receive, which is true of all the people who are in the building. They are giving in as well as receiving. You are invited to give your presence, to give your consciousness, to give your reverence and your consideration and your respect. All of that. You are invited into this. You have an opportunity, if you choose to take it, to write about this into your community, to educate both sides of your community that this really matters. And unfortunately, when people come who could come in the building, we don't give that a lot of thought. But if we speak to the fact that there are people who are not coming in churches today because they don't feel safe, people who are afraid of who might show up here and what might happen, there are people who are ill, people who just don't feel good today, or people whose car broke down, or people who are actually convalescing somewhere, or people for whom driving in on a Sunday morning is really hard. Like, this is our way of opening up our community to really make ourselves available as we do when we have translators, as available as we do when we speak to the fact that we're not here to dominate your beliefs. We're here to invite you to explore them, right? All of that. And so the encouragement really today is to give thought and consideration to what can happen and who could be present, who is possible in this kind of an arena, and then to consider, like, where else can this go? Who else can you expand to? Can you send a letter to the nursing homes in your area and say, we have an online service, we would love to invite anyone who might have an interest. Here's a little bit of information about Unity. If you have someone who is there at your center who you feel might enjoy our service, please feel free to pass this information on. Because who does that? I don't have time to go in and visit nursing homes, do you? We don't get out. But to send them a letter and say, we have an online presence, those people who are running that center, just like hospital chaplains, they know what's available. They know what's out there. Hospital chaplains are another good reach point. If you have someone who's staying with you, who by your conversation you feel like might align with our type of service, please feel free to pass this on. Youth centers, people who are providing shelter for those who are homeless. There are so many different ways. If someone really stepped in and said, how can we expand our digital arm? How can we really allow people to see what is available here without having to walk in the door? There are so many different ways to do that. You could send out a letter to every psychologist in your city and say, these are the basic tenets of Unity. If you should speak to someone for whom you think this would improve their life, provide support that they need, they can do that in a digital form. They don't have to show up. We would be pleased to welcome them into our digital community, and here's our link. Because these are people who are in service and care, who actually would say to someone, you know, have you thought about going to church? I mean, I'm not here to teach you religion, but it sounds to me like being part of a community could be really good for you. I happen to know of a church that you could try out online. Just get online and see it before you go. If it doesn't feel good for you, don't worry about it. But maybe you'd find something that feeds you, that nourishes you and helps you. Those are the kind of people who will do that, but they don't always know about unity. And especially if they're more conservative themselves and the person sitting in the chair across from them is not, they don't know where to send them. They don't know what's available. And we are such a nice bridge between conservative spiritual thinking and more expansive spiritual thinking. People can find words and phrases and scriptures and things that are familiar to them and still step into a more expansive possibility. So if you have someone in your surrounding, in your staff, in your support team, who can take your digital community to a different level, there is so much potential there. It's so much more than just broadcasting live. It's a whole piece of your ministry. It's a whole community. These are real people, not just faces on screen. So I really encourage you to step deeper into that, to consider what's possible, to look and see who might have an interest in volunteering, to ask yourself, what kind of digital offer am I putting out there? What kind of digital altar am I tending? Because it is a digital platform, right? It is a digital altar. It is a digital extension of what took you into ministry in the first place. It is, and that's like, it's not just the people in the room anymore. It's so much more. So how do you tend that altar? How do you give it the same loving care? How do you get your heart to move beyond just what people can feel in the room and get it through the screen? You do that by acknowledging people, by connecting, by being thoughtful about it, by giving it your intention and your action. And that's going to change the experience that people have as they work with you. So, when we get together at the end of the month, or in the middle of the month, we're going to talk really more specifically about what is available in the way of digital conversation. And I want to invite you to bring your personal situations, like, what are you doing right now? What's happening for you? We will get together on the third Wednesday of the month, same time, and answer questions and have conversation and share ideas and expand upon this, which is one of the things I love about this mastermind. And I know a lot of you watch online. And that's, you watch just for the same reason that we're doing what we're doing, because this time doesn't necessarily work for you. But I do want to tell you, you can show up in the room with us and have live conversation on the third Wednesday of the month at 11 o'clock Central every month. And this year, as we go into this new time, we're going to be working on innovation, expansion. How do we step into a bigger picture of who we can be and what we can be and how we can serve a world that is there needing what we have to offer. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your presence here, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.